So the second semifinals ended up being a classic. Top right, it is Team Liquid's Clem. Bottom left, it is Mouse HeRoMaRinE. It is a classic. It's been the, I don't know if it's most played out semifinal and finals of the EPT Open Cup, but it certainly is got to be up there. Because even though for a long time it was the HeRoMaRinE Open Cup, Clem has been almost as good about signing up for every single Open Cup. I think HeRoMaRinE has missed like 2 over the last 3 years. Something like that. Clem might have missed something like 10. I don't know. The fact is that they both sign up a lot. They both get to the semis and the finals a lot. And so they often face each other. So it is a classic, but it's not a particularly entertaining classic at this point. I mean, I think all the games are always entertaining. I guess as far as the excitement that is the unknown, it's a little less exciting. Because at this point, it is pretty much a fact. It is known that Clem is the better TvTer. Clem has won the last 8 times they've played. And in the year 2023, their overall results is Clem 20-10 in games, 8-2 in matches. So, in best of 3s, it's usually, you know, like a 2-1 or something like that, but or, you know, very, very close to 0, I suppose. But it does seem that Clem has a little bit of an edge now, whereas a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was, it used to be the opposite, which is that Clem used to actually have pretty poor TvT. Really did good work on fixing it. I would say maybe even, yeah, but 2 years ago, he really worked on fixing it. And then has been a stable TvTer for the last year, and then has been an extraordinary TvT player in the last 4 to 6 months, something like that. So I do favor him, but, you know, I've been calling some things wrong here today. Skillest nearly took down MaxPax, which would have been a bit of a surprise, but maybe not the biggest one. Been a little bit surprised. And then Skillest did kind of demolish Lambo, which I was personally surprised by. Just looked really clean in PvZ. I guess Skillest just kind of in general being the person I'm most surprised by. But point is that they have had some maybe upsets happen. Young Yakov, I guess the biggest upset potential, because he almost took down HeRoMaRinE, and then also took down Spirits straight up, which is pretty impressive. So there's been a couple of twists and turns in this Open Cup. It might ultimately boil down to something very expected, which is MaxPax versus one of these 2 Terrans. That's usual. Who's it going to be? Well, in this first game, we're getting both players being a little aggressive. Clem's being a little more confident or courageous on his command center placement. Despite HeRoMaRinE doing the exact same build, which is rather aggressive, or at the very least certainly guarantees your safety, I would say. Because worst case scenario, your opponent's doing the same thing. Is pretty much the worst case scenario. Not many 1-1-1s on one base coming out in professional TvT. So you'd usually expect that the 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion into 5 Reaper, 3 Hellion opener would protect you. In this case, HeRoMaRinE, not fully convinced about that. Worried about possibility of a kind of a base tradey scenario. You know, they both just miss each other. I don't know. But he went for a high ground command center. And the reason I'm really focusing on this is because let's just assume, with both of them going for similar numbers of units, that it's, going to be a wash as far as the battle goes. Then who gets ahead as far as the economy? Well, the person who's on the low ground already. So, actually, the orbital command timing is really not all that different, so that might not be an issue. It also isn't quite the same amount of units, especially as Clem's 2 Hellions were elsewhere. That was a huge mistake on his part. In fact, a game-ending mistake. Still so many units available for HeRoMaRinE. Fortunately, the Cyclone pops out. The Hellions lasted long enough, and that will not be game-ending. But when there's 5 units up against what is increasingly becoming only 1 Cyclone, as the Hellions die, the Marines die, and the medevac may or may not be available. I mean, that does get sketchy. But Clem holds, and HeRoMaRinE does not find any economic damage and might even be taking some, as he now knows he's up against the medevac play. He has his own medevac. I'm not sure where it is. Okay, they both are sending medevacs across the field. It looks like Clem has 4 Marines ready to go, but that's 6 Marines, and HeRoMaRinE's medevac, of course, under the healing power too. So we know that HeRoMaRinE, should he be able to unload, which he does, will win out. Sorry, that was 4 Marines and 2 Reapers. Either way, the point is, HeRoMaRinE has far more firepower. Raven pops out for Clem, which will help take care of this auto turret. Does does get slapped down to safeguard the SCVs, but the Raven itself gets destroyed. Big mistake there from Clem. Those were unstimmed Marines. Ravens absolutely can avoid that. The third CC is also potentially under attack, and not going to be able to go for that one, not with the tank popping out and the medevac returning home. The third CC, when it's brand spanking new like that, is a vulnerable target, but not able to do so in this game, not able to try and even threaten that. HeRoMaRinE just takes up the units that he can, puts his medevac into the corner so it cannot be touched, and with this, distracts his opponent from preparing for the forward push. HeRoMaRinE looking to take advantage right now, gets a lock on onto the tank, and the medevac cannot go over and save it. Clem's not even trying to. He was focusing elsewhere. His tank goes down, his cyclone goes down, and the Marine numbers look awfully small for our Blue Terror, and the SCVs have to be pulled. So far, not many of them going down, and looks like it might even be enough. One Marine and one Hellion, the only attacking units, and HeRoMaRinE is forced to respect that, which is kind of weird, but I guess he figured reinforcements must be on the way. I cannot overstay my welcome. I'm not sure about that. I feel like he could have found a little more before Clem's tank actually got up and running, but how would he know that? And so that little evacuation that he did might have missed him the opportunity to grab probably even like 6 SCVs. When SCVs are pulled and they're all by their lonesome effectively like that, I mean, usually you start to see the numbers climb, the number of kills. But then I guess they were being healed by a medevac, which is surprisingly effective in such low units battles. Anyway, Clem does exactly what he needs to do to hold on, get his tank forwardly sieged up, and successfully push HeRoMaRinE all the way back. But, ooh, these battles are on a knife's edge. Honestly, there's been a lot of times in this game, only 7 minutes long, I would say 3 times, in which Clem, just a little bit worse, could have already lost the game. A little bit late on the macro, just like a second on that tank, you know, or 2 seconds on the Cyclone, a second on the Raven control, or worse on the micro, losing just 1 more unit every single battle, and it feels like Clem could already have lost this game. I definitely believe that, considering how many times we've seen Clem actually demolish his Terran opponents in similar ways, where they're just a little bit worse, and he does get the snowball effect, and he does win prior to his 7-minute mark. I 100% believe HeRoMaRinE got very close to killing Clem. But he didn't, and definitely the type of battles where close but no cigar is a very true statement. You get close to snowballing, but you don't. So at the end of the day, it's a bit of a wash. We do still have HeRoMaRinE with some advantages. He does have faster stim and combat shields, faster 1-1, and a faster 4th command center. So undeniably, quite a few advantages. 2 Ravens to 2, 6 Vikings to HeRoMaRinE, so actually even has the air control. Clem continuing to build Vikings, however, so maybe not. It would be completely even in the skies. Clem invested into a faster 2nd factory, which might have been a play that he chose to do because he figures he was a little bit behind. He might not know the extent of his position, but I think he knows he'd be behind after everything going just a little topsy-turvy for him. And that might have encouraged the 2nd factory being put down first and foremost, as opposed to that faster 4th command center. I say that can be a choice based off of the information here, but I think it also can just be like a stylistic choice in general. HeRoMaRinE, 4th command center first, then 2nd factory. Also, additionally, 3 barracks, so very much choosing to go for the heavy Marine focus. Whereas Clem, again, because he's also playing from a kind of behind position, he's not the one that's in control of this game, still waiting for combat shields, might go ahead and play into 3 starport. Now, I don't think that's the position that suits Clem the best, but he has done a wonderful job making it, as good as the best 3 starport players in the world, or close to it. So even while I don't think that's where he maybe prefers to go in TvT, since he's such a fast player, I think he'll do very well with it. And he might have to do it as well. I'm not certain about that. The game isn't so far apart. It's not that Clem is so far behind, but he chose a very unfortunate time to unsiege. Now sieging on that high ground, and with the extent of his army, that will be good enough. HeRoMaRinE looking to pile on the pressure, moving out first, trying to get on top of Clem's bases, but also with that ARAX will have a lot of production. And Clem's going to have to withstand a lot of blows before he feels comfortable in this game. His 2-2 still behind that of his opponents. The Ravens coming in from HeRoMaRinE also are going to make more position for the Red Terran. They're not going to win the game outright, but they will allow the advancement of HeRoMaRinE's tanks, and actually he's going to go after that fourth base. Marine's going over there prior to the planetary actually being done. 5th CC also could be canceled or even killed. Clem now actually kind of messing up in his control a little bit. Finally pulls the trigger on the interference matrix, and we'll get that concave, but at the cost of his 5th and his 4th base. He does destroy the frontline army of HeRoMaRinE, but HeRoMaRinE has so much production behind this that he has actually plenty of army. Clem is still going to try and make a counterattack work. There's really no other plan here to execute, but it's not going to go as well as he's hoping. The best thing for Clem, 100%, 11 tanks to 3. Now that is a good number of tanks, but unfortunately he's being attacked in that natural. No amount of tanks will help him if they're not in position. 1 tank on the high ground, actually 2 tanks on the high ground, but not close enough to save the 3rd CC, or the natural CC is going to go down. All the SCVs sacrificed an attempt to save that did not work out. Anti-armor missile, however, and the Marines jumping on top of HeRoMaRinE before those upgrades are done. Everything combined together to give Clem a little bit more hope in this game, but that 3rd CC actually is now under attack. So, and the SCVs are once again going to all get slaughtered. Holy my god, good god. Can Clem actually win with the army fight is now the big question. He's very, very low on Marines, and tanks by their lonesome have a lot of vulnerabilities. That's got to be his #1 concern right now, is getting reinforcements to the other side of the map before HeRoMaRinE can actually consolidate. But HeRoMaRinE with 2-2 upgrades ahead of his opponents with far more Marines and more Marine production will probably be winning this out. There's just been too much time given to the Red Terran as Clem tries to kind of hold on offensively. You can see the numbers are just there for HeRoMaRinE. With the SCV pool that he can 100% afford, it will be the end of Clem's tank superiority. He is going to try and outposition his opponents with a couple more tanks, actually. I mean, this will be decent, but it's not going to be enough to make up for everything that Clem took damage-wise. Remember, he lost a CC. Well, more than that, actually. He lost 2 command centers earlier on and an orbital. He's actually managed to get back up to 3 CC, surprisingly. But for how long, as HeRoMaRinE sends army across the map, 4 medevacs full of units are going to jump on top of the tanks that Clem was trying to siege up to stop this exact thing from happening. And that high ground tank is trying to do some work, but it's actually not focus firing either. There we go. It is going to continue to fire away, but that 3rd CC is now dead yet again. And Clem's attack on the other side of the map seems to have been cleaned up as well. No matter how you slice it, Clem is going to lose game #1. He really tried his best to recover from the earlier mistakes. Very much a knife's edge, like I was talking about. So it's like mistake seems like a big word, but when they're very small mistakes, they still did kind of add up. They put Clem in a very uncomfortable position, and then HeRoMaRinE did an excellent job playing that game out like he was supposed to, I would say. You know, maybe he could have also been in an okay position should he gone for 3 starport too. I mean, I think that is certainly possible. It would have been a slower game. It would have, I think, given Clem a lot more opportunity to come back. And it certainly would have led to, I think, an extended TvT, one which doesn't end at 13.5 minutes like this one does, but it would have ended at like 17 or 18 minutes. Which, yeah, HeRoMaRinE just didn't have to do. HeRoMaRinE putting the pedal to the metal after gaining those little victories in the early game, and a substantial victory on his first move out to hit the 4th and 5th, just knew that time was on his side. In the top left, we have Clem. Bottom right, HeRoMaRinE. HeRoMaRinE doing a wonderful job in every stage of TvT. Early, mid, late, micro, macro. He won out on the micro battles consistently, I would say. Maybe missed an opportunity on one of those earlier micro battles, I suppose, but still did more damage than his opponent did to him. And then macro-wise was doing a wonderful job, not only getting to a 4th base faster, but then also getting to faster upgrades, which worked very well with his superior production of Marines. And the control over the game was very well done as well. Certainly a minor heart attack whenever you lose out on the majority of your tanks in TvT. So Clem's counter really did have some potential, but it's such a slow attack when you're tank-based. I mean, it's extremely threatening when the tanks are sieged up on something important. Very difficult to dislodge, even with a huge number of Marines. So HeRoMaRinE had to be careful, but it's just such a slow counterattack. And every time you unsiege, you're in danger. So HeRoMaRinE played out that portion of the game very well. And so we have Clem going for some more aggression. He's going to go for 2 racks. So 1 rack's at home, 1 rack's in proxy. Ideally, HeRoMaRinE never gets a hint of this. Clem actually with a SCV on the low ground looking for that SCV scout to know exactly when he should place his supply depot down. Because otherwise... That was weird. There was like 2 supply depots for 1 second there on the production tab. Because otherwise, he'd need to place it down this quickly. Could have waited, I think. But knowing exactly when the SCV was going to come in here. Blocks out the vision. HeRoMaRinE. You're not expecting much else, I would say, usually. Kind of have to just shrug and accept that you don't know if your opponent is factory expanding or 2-racksing. One thing you're pretty certain they're not doing is 1-racks expanding with that, but even then, there could be a trick. But anywho, Clem with now 2 Reapers to 1, and HeRoMaRinE moving over into Marine production. Clem has a good chance to even this up. Right here, right now, 1 Reaper still alive for Clem. Total of 2, of course, still alive then. 3rd and 4th joining, and that's actually going to be game over. There you go. Hey. Okay. HeRoMaRinE playing a very dangerous game. Very dangerous. I mean, basically, no matter what he followed up with, a Reaper or a Marine, his first Reaper had to stay alive longer than it did. Because if he followed up with a second Reaper, it wouldn't have been out maybe at that time, because Reaper takes longer. And the Marine that is out is not necessarily all that effective, right? So you basically are trying to save your first Reaper, buy time for your second or third unit, whatever it is, and then maybe pull SCVs as well. And then maybe you've got a chance because they have invested so much into aggression that even if you lose SCVs or lose access to your natural temporarily, it's probably still a workable game. But as soon as HeRoMaRinE went for the greedy opener without the bunker and then lost his first unit, yeah, that is game over. It can happen very quickly. So just like that, we have a tied up series. Bottom left, Clem. Top right, HeRoMaRinE. HeRoMaRinE going for that greedy opener on a ramp map. You have that high ground on the natural, but also SCV scouting. It's supposed to make you relatively safe against everything. You know, as long as you're not being proxy 2 racks, I don't think there's necessarily a hard counter, one that's just like nothing you can do, 100% you're dead. But a single proxy, single barracks at home would be also very close to a hard counter, as we saw. If the first Reaper lives, it's a little bit different, but it's still not an ideal scenario. And yeah, you could just lose like he did. So it's, you know, it's definitely a hard thing to defend against. But it's the proxy 2 racks that I would say that HeRoMaRinE was far more scared of, knew that if that was happening, he was 100% dead. The second racks being proxied, again, I would say there's a chance you defend against that with HeRoMaRinE's opener, but you have no idea it's happening. You don't react at the natural fast enough. You don't build a far more cautionary bunker, because if he was really just scratching his head and super concerned about the possibilities of his opponents, he might have done that faster, but I think he kind of thought about it a little bit late. Yeah. Just, certainly still builds that do not do well against others in StarCraft 2. And that was one of them. So Clem with the lucky punish. It's not guaranteed HeRoMaRinE would have followed up game 1 victory with game 2 1 racks expand after all. And will not try to succeed again with that particular build. I mean, I think he does it regardless of his opponent doing a 1 racks expand or not. I know Clem has done the 2 racks versus opponents going for factory expands. It still can be effective. But not going to do it again. Both players doing a far more typical factory expand, straight up factory expands. Yeah, one Reaper for HeRoMaRinE before adding on that reactor. Certainly, if he was up against 2 racks proxy, he'd still be in danger, but he is not. And he could try and cancel that and still get the Hellion out and still try and buy time. If that were actually on the way. It is not. At this point, you know that you both are probably factory expanding. Neither player actually getting that scout on the other. And then the concern is more about what do they get with the factory expand. Multiple Reapers, multiple Hellions, only 1 or 2 of each. How fast are you getting into your medevac? It's more so the question. HeRoMaRinE is going into the same build as the first game, in which they both did very similar builds. It was Clem who first moved off of the Reapers, but he still went for a lot of early game units as well. And that did, at the end of the day, it did go topsy-turvy, not just because Clem moved off of Reapers a bit faster, but because he was out of position to defend the natural. Now, Clem is going right into those Marines, so he will not have the same quality of early game units, but the quantity might still be okay. And with a faster Cyclone, he certainly will be okay. HeRoMaRinE would have had to have already started the Snowball to be doing well against this opener of Clem. Waiting for all 3 Reapers, all 3 Hellions means that Clem now has the big daddy unit. And as long as the Cyclone isn't completely alone, it should be enough to safeguard Clem from this. But he's once again going to be out of position. Yes, he is, a little bit. As one Hellion pokes forward to see if this exact thing is happening, it does lose its life, but the rest of the units will be enough to deter this. Actually, Clem being a little bit dangerous, sends his Reapers across, barely not getting seen on that. So now he doesn't have anything to help out on the natural or in the main base. He's got to pick and choose with the limited number of units that he has. He decides to send the Cyclone into the main base, but that is 5 Reapers. They will be finding damage no matter what. 3 Hellions in the natural also finding some damage as the Marines try and chase them down. It looks like as far as the overall damage, maybe it's not too bad, but it's still damage that Clem does not repeat. He does not get any damage done to his opponent in turn. So 2 Reapers would have been far more useful back at home. HeRoMaRinE maybe only would have gotten 3 workers killed instead of the 5. Yeah. And then it would have been closer. But as it is, Clem finds himself down 2 workers, 2.5 workers. He does have the... Yeah, he has Spirit Factory units. Yeah, I was like, sorry. The tank is in the natural, Cyclone's in the main base. So he does have the superior factory units. You know, the Hellions of HeRoMaRinE not necessarily all that useful, but HeRoMaRinE is coming in with everything in the natural, which Clem might not have been expecting. 1 tank might not be enough, but it is target firing the most important unit. That Cyclone, 1 hit away from death, had to be picked up, and that 1 tank alongside just a handful of Marines was enough to defend that natural. It might have been a little bit different if that tank was more vulnerably positioned and the Cyclone might have gotten a lock on with the ability to retreat, but fortunately it was already 1 shot away from death by the time it was even in range to get the lock on. So Clem with a good hold. HeRoMaRinE's aggression not working out as much as he was hoping multiple times, I guess. The Reaper backstab into the main, or whatever you want to call it, jump into the main, was still good enough. Oh no. Oh no. Loses the medevac. Cyclone lock on plus the interference matrix equals death. And I was just going to say how HeRoMaRinE still found himself in the better position. He's still up a couple of workers, and he still had that medevac flying around, capable of doing more damage. But now he only has the 2 worker advantage. That might still not... that's still something, but it might not be enough. No, in fact, it definitely isn't. 3rd CC is faster for Clem, so the 2 workers will be made up for very soon. Stim starts up about the same time for both players. 2nd and 3rd racks also fairly similarly timed. Engineering bay is also very close together. Yeah, it's I think at this point it comes down to the 3rd CC timing. It means that Clem's in a better position because he also does have the superior army. Not by that much. Not by an amount that I think that could crack HeRoMaRinE's defenses necessarily. 3 Ravens to 2, maybe. But... yeah, Clem's good on the army count and is now about to be just the littlest bit ahead on the economy. Clem actually bothering to use a scan here. He's not going to be able to see the third CC timing, but by seeing everything else, he pretty much knows, like the fourth and fifth barracks timing basically tells him when the third CC was made. Sees the third and second racks only just not building the reactors, and of course sees that it is bio. HeRoMaRinE has done some mech builds in the Open Cups and TvT. So good scan overall. Thank you, Houseless Gamer, for the 31 months. Clem is sharking around. Looks like he is going to try and do an auto turret run by. He knows he killed the medevac, and it's unlikely that HeRoMaRinE has another medevac or two out, because there would be hardly enough Marines to fill 2 medevacs if he were to have built that. Well, I guess, I mean, maybe Clem is actually worried about that exact thing. Or maybe he's thinking that HeRoMaRinE would send a Raven over to harass. Either way, Clem putting his air units in a very bold position. And I say bold not because they are themselves vulnerable. I think they could escape from most of the units here. But rather that they would not be available to help defend the third, which they really would have to be. That is a superior Viking count for HeRoMaRinE. Clem's in trouble, actually. His units returned home, but then now they're still out of position. So this is the exact problem that I was alluding to. If Clem's Ravens and Vikings aren't in position to help out his tanks, then his third CC will be broken. He still has his 3 Ravens, and if they come in from the right angle, they will demolish the tank count of HeRoMaRinE, but that's exactly what HeRoMaRinE knows will be Clem's plan. So he is sending his Vikings to find where those Ravens are. Stop them from getting the interference matrix, and if they can't get the interference matrix, Clem cannot break this position, and Clem will have to give up his third CC, at least temporarily. He's going to try and break it, just shy of actually having combat shields, however, but it's going to be good enough as the Ravens did get the interference matrix. HeRoMaRinE saw that coming and is trying to retreat. End of the day, however, you can only retreat so much against those Sim Marines. The numbers are here for Clem, and HeRoMaRinE will lose every last tank on those front lines. Turns out Clem did not need combat shields, as he takes care of everything just before it finished. The Ravens, at the end of the day, were still paramount, and they got the interference matrix that they needed and still have plenty of energy to spare. Third CC goes back to mining with not really all that many SCV losses, actually. And Clem is, I believe, faster to the 4th CC. HeRoMaRinE's, has not even started. HeRoMaRinE does have a very large Marine count, despite losing that front line. He was building up back at home, of course, and Clem has to be wary of that. Got to be a little bit careful. He's got the Ravens, he's got the tanks, he does have the Marines, he's got everything that he needs, I would say, but they do need to be in position. And HeRoMaRinE is going to actually try and abuse the superior mobility, the superior Marine counts with the superior medevac counts, is what you see right here. Heading into the main base, HeRoMaRinE has a wide open opportunity. Nothing from Clem in the main. He has no idea this is happening. 4 medevacs full of Marines about to hit him as he's supply blocked as well. 2 tanks not going to be able to help out. Maybe this one will get a couple of shots up by not very much, and Clem just had no idea. He was actually sharking around for a fight in the middle of the map, so he's even later to responding to this. Certainly a lot of chaos, certainly a decent amount of damage. The Ravens also trying to be target fired. Not going to work out, though. HeRoMaRinE actually was wondering, I think, if the base trade was going to happen, so he scanned right here kind of weirdly, but I believe that's what he was searching for. Clem should also be very scared of being attacked from a separate location at this point, but he has 2 sensor towers, so he knows he has at least some time to get into position. And it looks like he will do so in the nick of time, as HeRoMaRinE was heading towards that 4th base. Tanks will have to siege up, and they will. Actually, the Ravens of HeRoMaRinE not being controlled very well, but they will still get 2 interference matrix. At the end of the day, HeRoMaRinE thought that was more wide open than it was, and he does take some punishments, but he gets back into the main base as well, does some damage there. A couple of tanks probably went down, but overall, HeRoMaRinE not finding the 1-2 punch that he was hoping for, and also getting punished a wee bit more there at the last second, as those Marines caught the last 2 medevacs full of units. Overall, however, we still have a very even game, I guess, as far as the supply goes, but remember that Clem has 7 more workers and an entire 4th command center ahead of his opponent, already at Planetary. HeRoMaRinE has not yet invested into additional production, neither has Clem, so no one really has an advantage there, and the upgrades are about to even out, despite Clem being, like 20 plus seconds later. HeRoMaRinE did not find the opportunity to abuse that, but he's going to abuse that main base once again. We have 6 medevacs, this time with 4 tanks involved, looking to hit that main base. We do have some Marines waiting. We have a couple of tanks also positioned. Is that going to be good enough, actually? I don't know. 6 medevacs is an awful lot of Terran. That's a lot of tanks, but they do drop into the fire of Clem's. Well, the tanks themselves, with Marines certainly do, and the tanks all by their lonesome will not be enough to actually harass this main base. You can see that while HeRoMaRinE manages to unload his tanks and stop the third base from mining, it's not necessarily overpowering Clem's position. A cheeky drop on top of the tanks of the third base, trying to open up an opportunity to hit the third, actually. This is a pretty good idea, but is it going to be enough on the execution? Clem seems to have maybe enough units to hold here. His tanks are still ready to go. 3 of them still shooting away, but that third CC is not properly protected, and that will be under fire. I don't know if that will actually go down. I don't think it will. Yeah, we'll be safe. More Marines get into that main base, but probably not the best idea as the tanks have just been cleaned up. Clem trying to hold on to multiple locations. HeRoMaRinE really trying to pile on the pressure. He was later to his 3-3 because of it, however. Now it's Clem who has the upgrade advantage, or will eventually have the upgrade advantage, provided this game actually goes on for that long. It's a real slugfest at this point, as both of them still on an even supply. And HeRoMaRinE is finally getting his own 4th base up and running. That main base continues to be a sore point, so that even though 6 medevacs worth of Terran units did not win the game straight up like you would hope, they still obviously caused a lot of chaos, and a lot of trades also went down. And HeRoMaRinE's actually now capable of remaxing a bit faster, as I guess his economy has just been less interrupted with pulling all of the workers. So his supply looking better than Clem's, as Clem once again is under attack in the main base. He just cannot stop this from happening. He's trying to. I think these Vikings will now position themselves over here to stop any further drops into the main, but has the damage already been done? Is Clem falling too far behind? He's now behind in the workers, behind in the army. The one thing he has is superior upgrades, but that still takes 30 more seconds to actually come into effect. Tanks being taken down by HeRoMaRinE, dropping on top of them. 2 more tanks also in trouble, as they will also be gunned down. Clem down to 4 tanks, but maybe some of them in the main base still. He's wary of the drop in the main. HeRoMaRinE just out pushing into the third base. That's all he's got here. 3-3 still not done for Clem, as he's forced to pull the SCVs to just barely hold on. The Marine counts of HeRoMaRinE is actually very, very low. Only tanks, most of them on siege, is not going to be good enough, as the medevac also dies trying to pick those up, and Clem will hold, but holy shit, just barely. Oh, and he loses 31 SCVs in the process, apparently killing some of his opponents. However, at the same time, not sure what was happening over here. But did an orbital die? No, it transferred. So I don't know where the SCVs of HeRoMaRinE died, but they did die somewhere, meaning that Clem only finds himself behind by 4 workers and still on an even base count. But his main base is starting to mine out, so he's going to need to do the same thing. He's going to need to actually lift his orbital command elsewhere. Finally, though, he's got 3-3. 3-3, very far ahead of HeRoMaRinE, is going to be a godsend in some of these battles as long as Clem is in position, but once again finding himself out of position, didn't realize he was being attacked in the third, didn't have the Census Tower available, and his third orbital will once again have to lift, maybe? It's getting shelled at here. Oh, another medevac drop in the main. Oh, where are those Vikings? I guess they died. Clem's still not able to actually secure this main. HeRoMaRinE not going to stop attacking it as long as there's no missile turret ring to stop him. I mean, Clem, if he was able to mine as peacefully as he would have liked in this game, would have, a long time ago, made a missile turret ring. But it's been so much chaos. The only reliable mining base has been his natural, which has been low on minerals for a long time, and his 4th, which has been really, truly important to this game. If that had fallen in some of the earlier attempts to take it down, I mean, Clem would have already died, 100%. The upgrades are even, by the way, now, guys. Medevacs actually hold tanks, but Clem didn't know that, so he doesn't focus fire them down when he's just trying to get his own tanks into position, while also dealing once again with a drop in the main. This freaking main is going to kill Clem as the 3rd CC gets gone down. He cannot save it, and he might not be able to save this game overall. Medevacs accidentally fly into Marines. That was a little bit weird, but maybe it was intentional, as the Marines actually have Clem. We're going to go for a drop. That means that his tanks were properly protected, and HeRoMaRinE is finding the good damage that he needs, the game-ending damage that he needs to actually win out after like 8 best-of-3s. He finally is going to take down Clem and face Max Packs in the finals. It is a certainty at this point, as HeRoMaRinE dominates the natural of Clem. Clem taps out. HeRoMaRinE, oof, really making a sweat there. I mean, that was incredible amounts of work to try and kill the guy after so many successful drops in the main base. And every time it was like, well, is HeRoMaRinE doing enough? He finally does it. GG's. HeRoMaRinE moves on to the finals to face Max Packs in a best-of-5.